Bank of Ghana indicated that their prime object is to ensure price stability. And some other responsibilities has compelled them to outsource some of their activities. May I know whether this is being done with due regard to the principal enactment and its later amendments?
Specifically, sir.
Your principal enactment?
Yes.
And
which activities have we outsourced? I want to be...
No, you didn't say so. You didn't specify. You said you're true. Ms. Opat, Mr.
Steve
Opata.
Yes, Steve.
In an earlier submission by him, he said that your prime object is price stability. However, there are some other responsibilities, and you can't manage them on your own.
It is, Mr. Chairman, maybe I should correct this one also. It's an entirely wrong impression. We were talking about, reserves management for the bank. And we indicated that our reserves are managed, part is measured by ourselves, another part is measured by external fund managers. And these are highly reputable, rated firms, and this is best practice worldwide. Now, when we assign them that task, it's not a blank check you give them. You set benchmarks. You ensure value for money. And remember, through that process, you are also building the capacity of your own selves even more. And I added that when it comes to the petroleum funds, that you can be sure that we are doing everything in-house. Honorable member, this was what I remember us saying.
Outsourcing, that Bank of Ghana, while prime responsibility is to ensure price stability. However, because of the nature of our activities, there is a need for us to outsource. The words outsource are not mine. I am only asking that this requirement or this need to outsource, is it being done or will it be done with due regard to your principal enactment? That is all my point.
We use the word outsource here, in the general context that you are giving somebody the mandate to do certain things on your behalf, but then you yourself have responsibility. You take full responsibility for the monitoring within the certain scope. For example, we will give them the mandate, we'll set investment guidelines, we are on a daily basis, monitoring compliance. So it's not like we have relegated that duty. We have just given them the mandate and we are monitoring that activity. So that is a context under which I said that. So the use of the word outsource, which is really used by central banks, is just to say that you are giving somebody an investment mandate, but then you take full responsibility of that activity. Thank you.
So, in other words, this has been done with due regard to your principal enactment and subsequent amendment, not so?
Yes, in due regard with the Bank of Ghana Act.
Now, earlier on, a colleague relied on Article 183B. You see, some of the surrenders, the entities that are required to surrender, government has shares in them. So, where the interest of the state is in such receipts, it's part of Government of Ghana funds, not so, because that revenue, the state has an interest. Now, I just want us to draw the distinction. I can agree in situations where those entities are wholly owned by private individuals or private interests. But would you agree with me that where that entity is of such public-private in nature, 183B would necessarily trigger? Would you agree with me? You are free to disagree.
It's important that we separate the issue about surrenders from external fund management. When you talk about external fund management, that is reserves that are wholly owned by the Bank of Ghana, on behalf of the state of Ghana. No question about it. Now, if you talk about surrenders, then those corporate bodies are owning the funds. Is that okay? All that we are saying is, show us evidence that you did not keep those US dollars or whatever currency. You are not keeping it offshore. Show us evidence that you brought it into the country. And I said previously, the surrenders had to be brought in only through Bank of Ghana. But from last year, we said, no, we need to develop the interbank forex market. And so for that reason, they can surrender, they can bring it through the commercial banks. And then the commercial banks have to give us information. There's a periodic, submission of returns on all such flows, so we can see for sure that it is their own money, but then they brought it into Ghana. There's something we call the net open positions of banks. We monitor that, frequently, to also ensure that banks don't get to keep those funds just to themselves. Beyond some limits, they are also forced to sell these in the interbank market. And that is what should stimulate interbank forex, activity. This is the whole idea.
My simple question is that where the state has an interest, don't you think that 183(2)B must be complied with? I've understood your earlier explanation. That mandate you've given for them to deal with commercial banks. I don't have a problem. But it cannot be a general purpose mandate or waiver. I am interested in where the state has an interest. Don't you think that, as the Constitution so says, you need to comply where the state has an interest? That is all.
The issue is about what do we mean by government funds or state funds, okay? Are we including companies where government still has some shares? Etc. So there's an interpretation issue there. But for us, we are looking at it operationally. That, look, whether you surrender to us directly or surrender through the commercial banks, you surrendered to Ghana. That is our concern. That you must surrender to Ghana.
That's all right, Mr.
Whether through the Bank of Ghana or through
Deputy Governor, because of my
commercial
time,
bank.
I think you've made the point. I've understood you.
My understanding of your question is that, or to me, at the time of repatriation, the government interest has not been determined at that point. If government has shares in a particular company or interest in a particular company, whatever belongs to government will be determined when there is declaration of dividend. That is a point that you know that this is a portion for government, and therefore it becomes state funds.
Exactly.
So at the time of repatriation, that doesn't come in. It doesn't arise. That is my understanding.
Yes. It's an operational issue at that stage. They've exported, they are bringing their money in.
We also the DKM issue. We saw US tilapia issue and all that. Some of it is purely a matter of investment, and they may lie within the regulatory ambit of the SEC. Some of it is a mixture of investment and banking. And so the Bank of Ghana may have to come in. I'm asking this question because we have heard a lot of adverts going on about gold and all those kind of things. I have asked the SEC They said they have called them, but they have not seen anything. But looking at it, it looks like a mixture of some kind of banking and investment or securities matter. So I'm asking, does the Bank of Ghana have some kind of collaborative activities that they undertake with the Securities Exchange Commission? And if it is so, whether the Bank of Ghana is aware of all these adverts going on, and what steps you, together with SEC, have taken on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, if I can start with the last one first. Men's Gold. Only last week, if you observed, we caused a publication in the newspapers about Men's Gold to the effect that we haven't licensed them to accept deposits. Because to accept deposits, you need a license from Bank of Ghana. We haven't licensed them for that purpose. And hence, if you go ahead to do business with them, it's at your own risk. I say that because the Minerals Commission has given them a license to purchase gold. I hope you get that. So based on that, we cannot just get up and go and close them down. There has to be evidence that they are accepting deposits, thereby flouting our regulations. So we took the first step by notifying the public. It came out in quite a number of the newspapers that these people are not to accept deposits. If they ask you to give them money, don't give it to them. Now we are following on from the next level, where we will have to sit down with the respective agencies, and I've instructed that we need to work together to pin them down. Because if they are licensed to purchase gold, that doesn't have anything to do with us. So going forward, we are collaborating on that very issue. Let me use this medium, and probably your good selves can help us as well. We need to educate our people. We are just too ready to give money to anybody. Anyone that promises a good return, we are quick to just give up monies to them. If you look at the newspapers now, we are publishing what we call the clean list. Microfinance institutions that are complying with, our regulatory measures, institutions that at least we can tell you it's okay, you can do business with them. We are publishing these. And we expect the public to take that information and work with it. Then you mentioned the DKM issue. As you know, when any company goes down, it has to go through liquidation. So there's a liquidation process that is going on by the Registrar General. They are working with their lawyers, they are working with one of the audit firms, and they are working in line with the Liquidations Act, which is an act of parliament, your own act. So probably if you want them to give you an update about how well they are operating within your act, I believe the Honorable Committee can write to the Registrar General. They are the liquidators, and they can provide you with updates.
Can you explain to us? You did provide it in the request of your answers. That's you provided on the non-disclosure of acquisition of shares in Afrexim Bank of $254,000. And you also indicated 15 additional shares at the cost of same. But you have not shown us what are those 15 additional shares acquired. I thought in your answers you would have provided us with those 15 additional acquired.
Oh, you mean the stock figure?
Yeah, the stock figure.
We can get that. Those are nominal values. The essence, what we are saying is that currently, given when you look at all the shareholders in Afrexim, and these are all the African countries, Ghana is part of them. Our shareholding as a proportion of the total is just about 2% of the total shares in Afrexim. So it's quite small. It's relatively very small. What we did here was just to add back the 254,000 to the shares that we have already. But going forward, we may have to consider, given that Afrexim Bank has of late been doing very well, they are making some good profits, and also the fact that we want to attract more support from them. There are more projects they can do, various areas that they can assist as other countries. We may consider increasing our shareholding somehow, but then you need resources to do those. So for now, it's all on record that we have acquired those additional shares. Yes.
Chairman, the last time you appeared here, I asked a question, and you said you wouldn't be able to give an answer with regard to the lending rate. And when you left here, the following month, there was a little bit of the lending rate and continued on 2 occasions. As at now, you are aware, apart from reducing this lending rate, or that is your Bank of Ghana giving the corporate rate, that the commercial banks still continue in the same way, charge as much as 30%. Now, you are aware this is not helpful to the business environment and those who go to borrow money to do business. And of course, the understanding is that there's a continual reduction of our monetary policy rate. And probably the business environment would also be expecting a similar reflection in their transaction. But that is not what is going on. Can you tell us, maybe from here, at what percentage are you going to go down in the next 2 months? Because you cannot tell me today that you can't tell me. The last time you did, and 2 occasions, you were able to do it. I am very sure now you can tell us in the next 2 months what rate you come out.
The decision on the policy rate depends on our projection when it comes to the outlook, and then also the risks to the outlook, therefore. And so it has to be when the time when you are having your meetings. It will depend on the data available. It will depend on developments in the economy at the time, and then so that you take the appropriate decision. But as the governor explained, this was at the press conference after our last meeting, there was a similar question like that why is it that lending rates are not coming down as fast as, the policy rate is coming down. And he explained it, that usually there's some kind of asymmetry there. The banks do not, when we are increasing the policy rate, you find that they adjust in tandem. When it's the reverse, there's always some delay. The good thing is that ultimately they will have no choice but to come down. For now, some of them have already booked their loans, and so they cannot change that instantly. We must also remember that there are some remaining, challenges in the banking industry which we are addressing currently. You are aware of the NPL issue. Hopefully, the energy bond that I'm sure you are very much aware of. If we are able to get through with those efforts, we would have supported the banking industry to sort of reconsider some of these rates going forward. So we see the lending rate coming down. We are not worried at all. It's just a matter of time. If we sustain the progress we are making, ultimately, it won't be long. We'll begin to see lending rates coming down. And let me say that we also publish the APRs of banks, I think every quarter or so, or every month. We put it in the newspapers just for the public to be guided. At least you see which banks and where you are likely to get a relatively lower rate. We encourage people to use all such information. You tend to find that most of our people are tied to just one bank. All right? There's no law that stops you from opening accounts with all the 30 banks.
Excuse me, Doc. It's a whole topic on its own. But I simply ask, I'm aware, and everyone is aware of your position here. But the fact is that, how does that benefit the business environment? If you keep reducing, and the commercial banks still charge as high as 30%. In simple terms, you are only saying that your reduction will only be of benefit to the government, but not to the commercial user. Because I still pay the same as you were paying 20.
Mr. Chairman, on the contrary, government has not been borrowing more, and so I think we should leave that aspect out of it. What I'm saying is the lending rates, over time will come down. We fully understand why it appears sticky for now. There are issues we are dealing with. Hopefully, once we deal with those issues, you see it fall. When a bank takes your deposits, there are two ways they use it. Either they put it into investments or they put it into loans. That's the way it works. And remember, they have to pay you some interest on your deposit. So there's pressure on them all the time to make enough return to compensate depositors, And so given that interest rates are coming down, they will be forced to do more loans. And if they have to do more loans, there should be some more competition there, and so they can lower rates. We've seen this before. If you cast your mind back, towards the end of 2000, around 2009, thereabout, we saw, a rapid decline. We see that happening again. It's just a matter of time. I think we shouldn't be too apprehensive. We understand fully the interest cost burden on firms, and we are working very well in that.
I'm holding the document you sent to the Auditor General in response to give you further information on management of funds. I think we just had a copy dated on the 20th of July, Bank of Ghana. You have it? We don't have it. Oh, you don't have it. We just got it. It was delivered to the Auditor General, or it was sent to the Auditor General, addressed to the Auditor General. I wanted to quote some portions, but if you want me to go ahead, I can go. Yeah, in that document, under external fund management information, you stated that the fund manager's fees constitutes fees paid to external managers to cover the cost of managing the portfolio on behalf of the bank. Its computation is based on the market value of the portfolio, with reference to fees schedule agreed in the investment management agreement. You recall that? My question is, if the fees that are computed is based on the value of the investment, then it means that if the value of the investment go up or down, they still get commission, right?
The way it happens is that there's a schedule, and the schedule has ranges. So supposing the investment is between 100 and say 200 million, then you say 10 basis points, for example. Okay. So within that range, that is the fee that you pay. So progressively, if the portfolio is big, then you tend to benefit from less fees. So it's on a progressive base. So that's how it works. So I think I'll pause now, and then we can continue.
My question is, I'm managing your funds. If the funds value increase, I get commission. If it decrease, I get commission, right?
For the most of the mandates that we are working, we are using a schedule, flat fee based schedule. You can have scenarios where it may be based on performance based scheduling, but that is not what we do. And I think generally not many central banks try to do that.
Will you answer my question, please?
Okay.
Answer my question.
Okay.
It's a simple question. Please answer.
What's the question again, sir?
Those who are managing your funds, according to your statement, their commission is based on the market value. So I'm saying that when the market value of those investments drop, they will still earn some commission. If it goes up, they will earn some commission. Is that correct or no?
It's correct. And I just said, I think I stated that it's in ranges. So supposing the fund was, say, 110, right? And it dropped to 108.
It's all right. I'm okay. I would have thought that you pay commission based on the value of the increase in your, rather than the value of the investments. In other words, if your commission is based on how much profit you have made of my money, rather than the value of my money. And if you can add this, can you give me on the average, the rate of return on these investments?
Mr. Chairman, maybe we'll have to come back to you on the average for the total portfolio, because there are schedules, and we have to look at what is the size of the portfolio, and then you calculate an average for the entire portfolio. So, for example, if you have like a $300 million portfolio, between 100 and 150, you may pay 10 basis points. That's 0.1%. And then between 150 and, say, 200, you may pay 0.8%. So then you have to calculate. There will be a weighted average, and then you arrive at the average for the entire portfolio. We can provide that, I think, at the pleasure of the committee.
Are you saying that, as you sit here, you cannot tell me that on the average you earn 10% of these foreign investments or 5%? You don't have that information?
You see, I think we have to be careful.
That's why I said average.
Yes.
That's giving you a lot of room.
I think, I don't think we need to address that in the context. Otherwise, you'll be throwing figures out there that will lead to noise. You see, in investment decision making, you want to avoid noise. You want to focus on the issues based upon the conditions at the time. So, for example, if you want to talk about returns, I think we should talk about returns in the context of the benchmarks and what was happening in the global financial market within that context. So I don't want to tell you 5% and then leave it like that. So I think maybe there should be another opportunity within the context to talk about investment returns.
On the average, maybe if I can just add to that, to give you some comfort. We don't just allow the external fund managers to operate on their own. There is an investment committee that I chair. We meet regularly, about every month. And one of the reports we review is the external fund managers' performance report. You see there very nice graphs, how they are performing in relation to a benchmark. All right? So you see all of them and how well they are performing relative, to some equal benchmark for all of them. There's a 2-year cycle that we have for reviewing these portfolio managers. And so when you notice that one is not performing as the others, you look at when you are reviewing their contract again, and then we open it up. So there's a whole framework that guides this investment activity. But what he's saying is that the structure of fees that are paid to the portfolio managers, I agree with you. If it's commission-based, then there's that incentive that if they make more, they earn more, and that's the way to go. But there are other sides to it. And so it's not a simple affair like that to give you it's 5%, no. If you want us to give you the detail on the structure of fees for all the 6, I think we now have 6 of them, all the 6 external fund managers, we can provide that information separately to the committee.
It's a pity you cannot provide that information, because my second question is gravel on that.
Mr. Chairman, I want to correct that again. The press is here. It's not that we cannot provide the information. It has to be put into a nice table. It's not just a simple thing, and I don't want to mention a number and be misquoted. I remember the last time we appeared before you, my face was put on a daily graphic that I had stolen $40 million. Mr. Chairman, maybe I should use this on a lighter note. That the press should be more accurate at these things. We promised that day that we were going to bring additional information. We just needed to be sure. And yet, it was as though somebody took that money. It wasn't good. It wasn't good reportage at all. But what I'm saying, is, on a serious note, is that we'll come back to you with the details. Just by tomorrow morning, I'm sure we can compile this nicely.
You see, I'm thinking that, well, you may not have the information now, but on the average, if I'm wrong, correct me, most of these investments in the global market, you don't return more than 10%. And we've been borrowing at 10% and over. And if people make investments in Ghana, they can get 30%, 25%. So why do we keep investments that return 10% or below 10% and be borrowing from the same market at, how much? Is it 19%? And also, why don't we, even if we want to, why don't we do the investments locally? Because we can earn 20% here. I don't know, maybe I'm confused. Tell me.
We don't just invest into anything, not even in emerging market, instruments. The investment guideline is structured in such a way that we go for the high grades. But if you want us to invest into our own, instruments, the question is, how about the country risk? The country risk remains there. So our investment guidelines for now doesn't allow such a thing. But that said, it's an issue that we have thought about ourselves. However, we don't find it to be in line with best practices. He's very much aware of that debate. I don't know if Steve wants to add more about that. We've talked about this at length last year. But currently, our investment guidelines preclude us from those downgrade investments.